Hello and welcome to One Plant Short of Crazy. Today we are going to be working on the Neverdie. I put a post up yesterday that talked about this wonderful, beautiful plant here and having issues with it being in this ginormous pot here that has 0 drainage holes on the bottom. And so this has been sitting out for 2 days now, just as is. So if I pull all of these out, we can see that I still have a little bit of soil on some of these. I'm gonna kind of work a little bit, see if I can break it up. I also had something in here, I'm not quite sure what it is, but it does look like it's rotted in the middle, but there may be something in there. So I might just throw that in moss and see whether or not anything comes back, but that's not going in this pot. Not even quite sure what it is, to be honest. Again, this is my mom's plant. A couple things that I want to talk about before that I kind of spoke about yesterday in my post that I'd like for you guys to be able to kind of see in the video is, one, this pot is way too big. I know I'm saying that multiple times. I've already said it before. Again, I'll say it. Way too big. It's way too deep and it's way too big around. And the fact that it has no drainage holes for a plant that likes to dry out almost completely is a big issue. So I wanted to show you guys kind of a close-up, so I'm going to walk up here. I have no clue how well this is going to work, but we'll try it. So you can see in here that these are all clumps of roots that came off when I removed the soil. And this soil is so moist that you can see ringlets around the bottom of moisture buildup from this being in there. So I could probably squeeze, yep, I can squeeze out water drops from this. So if you have a succulent and you can grab the soil and squeeze water out of that soil is nasty and not good. So I'm gonna set this one aside. I do not throw away any of my soil. So usually there's a couple different options for soil I'll do. I'll either take the soil that's from old plants and I'll put it in a big box. I'll put the box outside in the sun. I'll let it completely dry out. After it's dried out, then I usually treat it. I'll use some mosquito bits in it. I'll use some neem oil. I'll make sure that it's treated. And then after that, what I like to do is I make a little mix of fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, and I soak the soil with that fertilizer. And then I drain out the excess and let it dry a little bit, put a lid on it, and now my mix is ready to use for other pots. And since I use pretty much the same soil mix for 90% of my plants, it works really well. The second option is I just take it right over to my right over here and I dump it into my outside garden and I use it for that. And let that go back in to be used outside. So no matter what, I never throw away soil, even if I had an infestation of a bug, which I haven't had in years, thank goodness, but I'll always do that. Speaking of bugs, as we're watching the video, I don't know if we'll see any, but my little hibiscus behind here, we just released a whole bunch of ladybugs on it because the hibiscus loves to attract aphids, and I really want my buds to look pretty this year. So anyways, back to the Neverdie plant. So the pot that I've selected, I went to our local nursery here in Idaho. It's called Zamzo's. And this is one that's made by a local person and then they sell them over. It's even numbered on the inside for the number they give it for their design, which I love that this is 100% handcrafted by local community. I really, really encourage you guys to buy local, support local. People like you and I that love plants, you know, if you have somebody that you like to buy from, find a local group. Obviously big groups are great too, but helping your local people is always awesome and you can build some really good friends. So anyways, pot in comparison, when we look at the two, very, very big difference on the side. So what we're gonna do, let me pop this one back in here, is we're gonna do a nice little soil mix here. And I have perlite and I have cactus soil. And I am going to do equal parts of both. I'm just going to do 1 bag of each and pour it in. Oh, these things don't like to tear for me all the time. And I like to put the perlite in first. When you put perlite in, don't breathe it in. perlite is notorious for having a nice little white cloud puff, and I don't know about you, but the cloud puff makes me cough and sneeze every time. It's horrible. So I just have a whole half of my container here filled with perlite, just straight perlite. And then the next one is going to be, I got succulent and cactus soil. I usually just get, oh my goodness, I usually just get cactus soil, but I like the succulent mix in there too. Keeps a tiny bit of moisture. Don't judge me, I'm about ready to use my teeth. There we go. Gotta do what you gotta do. Oh, and it didn't even work. There we go. Yeah, I don't use scissors. I use scissors for my plants bags. I really don't care. All right, let's get this cactus soil / succulent mix in here. And next up is our dirt manicures. So I don't get my nails done because my nails always look nasty because I don't use gloves. I mix everything by hand, and what I do when I mix this to make sure it's not a crazy mess is I just work on one corner and slowly bring it up to mix it, and then once I do that, I flatten it back out, and I'm going to work on the other opposite side corner, and I'm going to bring up some of the perlite up to the top. It's a pain in the butt. It takes a little while, but in all honesty, nothing good is worth doing unless it takes a little bit of work. I like feeling the accomplishment. I also like knowing that my perlite isn't going to be lumped up in one area, so I'm just going to keep working corner by corner, bringing this up and over to the top, bring it up and over, flatten it back down again, and you can just work your way around. This container is a little bit smaller than I like to use, but I have one container of all sphagnum moss, one container of coco coir, and now one little container for succulents. I just started getting into the cactus and the succulents recently. I used to kill them all, no matter what. And for me, I don't like that. I like to figure out how to take care of things and not kill them because obviously they're a living plant. There's a way to do it. So a lot of the things that I've found is that everybody always talks about not overwatering succulents. And so they wait a while and then they water it. But not all the times does that work because sometimes we have way too much soil in the pot. Sometimes we don't have drainage. So you have to make absolute certain that when you're doing it, that you're actually letting all of the soil dry out. And so having a shallower dish for succulents and cactuses is gonna be the best option to be able to help make sure that you can do a full soak, get all of the roots, but not leave an entire clump of moist dirt, as you saw over there, that lets all of your soils just, FedEx truck, rot away and fall off. Okay, this mix is looking absolutely fantastic, so I'm just going to lump it up in here. And yes, I make a mess outside all the time. This is why this is the preferred area for me to plant. And then I'll just take a hose and I'll spray all the dirt right in behind me. I have a hibiscus tree, strawberry plants, I've got lavender, I've got lilac bush, all of these great things that get nice little potting soil when I'm done potting. So for my depth right now, I just kind of put it in. I still have about an inch gap on the top there. For each one of these plants, I do want to try to see if there are some clumps of dirt at the bottom, if I can get them off. This one, obviously, there isn't. But we're going to work on this one. And as I mentioned in my post, I'm not going to try very hard. So I'm just going to kind of lightly see if I can break this away and get a little bit more. It's actually dried out quite a bit, which is good. But I'm still worried about potential root rot and overwatering down here. It'll be fine regardless. It's going to start giving some better roots off. So I don't really need to do much. That's kind of good. I've got a nice little root area that's pretty much clear of kind of that mushy soil. So it'll do well in here. I'm going to do the same on all the other ones. And then I'm going to do just a slight little sprinkle of cinnamon on the edges here. I talk about cinnamon all the time. I love cinnamon. Cinnamon is an antifungal. antibacterial, whatever you kind of want to call it. And it acts as bark. So when you have cuts on plants, oh, this one's breaking. We're just gonna snip that. That'll be a new clipping there. But when you have cuts on plants, you can put the cinnamon directly on the cuts, which will simulate a little bit of bark and help close up the wound a little bit. And then because it's an antifungal, it'll also help in making sure that we prevent additional root rot bacteria or any buildup like that that could injure your plant after you put it under the soil. So we want to make sure that we give our plants the best possible options that we have. So I'm going to break this up a little too. Got some bark in the in the plant. So let's get this. I love the fact that this is called a Neverdie though, because even as much as my mom decided she was going to water this one and leave a whole bunch of moisture in there, and my dad, because my dad goes in and helps watering too. So you got two people that are still learning about plants, both trying to care for them, and the poor guy suffered a little bit. So last one here, and then the rest are all little broken clippings and pieces. This one actually dried up really well. It has another little stem here. I think this is actually a completely different plant. Is it, or is it just a baby? No, it's a really dried up baby of this one. So hopefully this one will come back. I'm not quite sure 100%, but we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a go and we'll see if it can. Doesn't hurt. If it doesn't, I'll just pluck it out later. So let's get all my roots kind of in one area here. And then I talked about trimming it down today as well in the post. I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I am gonna leave it be. I think this plant here is actually not as damaged as I thought it was when I first looked at it, now that it's dried out. So what I'll be doing is just putting them all back in there, and then later on I'll take a look at it, see how everything's doing, let it grow for probably a couple months, and then I may do a couple trimmings in there, but I think this pot's gonna be absolutely perfect. So we have all my roots here, and now dollar store, which means $1.25 now, because dollar store is no longer dollar store. I'm just gonna take some cinnamon, and I am just gonna cover it. It'll also help with drying out some of the additional soil that's there. If I get it on the leaf, totally fine. You can just brush it off. It's, I mean, completely dry cinnamon. So I've got one here. I'm just gonna put it in soil. I don't like this leaf, and I wanna activate a couple node points on here, so I'm just gonna pinch the leaf off. I'm gonna pinch it off of this as well. So I have an actual 1, 2, 3, 4, and a possible 5th activation point for rooting. So I'm just going to take it, pop it in, and I'll do it at just a little bit of an angle, and then use the soil to kind of hopefully hold it up here. It'll be a little tilting one for a while, but I want some of those other activation points there, and we're going to add some more soil on the top, so it'll be able to kind of trigger it and hit a little bit of soil on there. This one's large. We're gonna flip over the ones that don't have actual just bare bottoms, and we're gonna do another round of cinnamon. So these ones are all bare root. They don't have any roots right now, or rootless. I guess that's not bare root, that's rootless. All right, so let's flip this one over. Let's flip this one over. Do one last sprinkle. I'm just going all the way, the soil, the roots, everywhere. Trying to avoid the foliage. If you get it on, like I said, you can just wipe it off. But now that we have a good amount and there's extra on my table here, I'm just gonna take the ends here, dip it a little bit, take it, put it all the way around it, and then this one's definitely gonna go in sideways. So I'm gonna pull off a couple more leaves here, and this one I'm going to put kind of towards the edge so that the edge can help hold it up while it's rooting. But yeah, we're going to take all of these off, and this is just going to go in like that. So we're going to take it in, kind of put my finger underneath, make a little hole, and then this way, whoop, we're going to pull one more leaf off. I don't want it sitting in the soil too much. Okay, 2 leaves. I'm horrible. Just completely tear them off there. All right, so it's got a nice little spot to kind of hold up on there. We're just working with all the bare ones right now and getting these in, and then I'll put the big old ones in the middle. So I'm kind of going around the edges. I know I go backward. Instead of doing the big guys, I do these ones. Plus I'm still letting them dry. Okay, so same on this one. We're just gonna rotate the pot slightly. I'm gonna put this one on the edge as well. It'll help it too to make sure that if it touches the soil that it's not going to. So I'm kind of using the pot as a little bit of a post kind of to hold it up out of the soil until it starts getting some roots that gives it traction to hold down in the soil. That's what happened. So you may find as you're breaking pieces off that you break a whole entire piece. Doesn't matter. Now we have another one. So I'm going to pull just a couple more of these off here. Perfect. Now, if anybody in the comments knows whether or not you can root the individual leaves, let me know, because I'm still learning about the Neverdie plant. All I know is I love the name, and for most of us that are beginners, any plant with the name Neverdie is probably a good one to add to your collection. All right, we got one more little one, and then we'll do our big guys in the middle here. These also like to get snug, so this pot here is going to be a very good size for probably another year, maybe even 2 years before I really look at going up in a size. Obviously, I'll probably give some more soil. I know I mentioned in the comments or my post that I'm also going to add some cocoa coir, and I'm gonna do that after it's dried out a little bit and it's been in this soil for a month. I'll take all of it out again and I'll resituate, and I'll add in a little cocoa coir in there because it holds a tiny bit of extra moisture. Succulents really like them. It's not like an overabundance of it. So we've got our first little guy. I'm not sure if those flowers are gonna make it, but they're so stinking cute. I'm gonna put this one just over here in the corner. Get that guy in there. He's got some roots. He's got some cinnamon. Gonna make sure that we don't have any root rot coming. Again, I still have about 1 inch of space for some soil here. This leaf, it already looks like it's slightly damaged, so I'm gonna pull it off, give the plant all of the focus on the stuff that actually looks good still. Okay, next one. Let's just pop this guy over here next to this because we've got 2 really big ones here. And I'll move my plants around 100 different times before I finally decide how I want the pot to look. I'm kind of an artsy little nut. I crochet, I draw, I build things. I cook, like anything that you can do that has some sort of art to it, I love it. So these things are kind of an art masterpiece for me. And I like to take my time. Oh, it smells good. It smells like cinnamon. All right, ooh, that's a really good spot for this one here. We'll have to put, I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of soil up in this because it's not wanting to sit, and I knew that was gonna happen. My inch of space there. All right, last one. Let's flip this pot around, and we're gonna put this one in the back here. I've got a nice little spot kind of left open. There we go. And then while holding it, because that one's got a lot of dirt on it, I'm just gonna shove my dirt in. I don't care if I get the plants kind of covered up with dirt. I'm gonna shake it around a little bit afterwards, make sure that it moves. I don't want this dirt going completely up to the very top line, because when you water it, if you have it up on the top line, all you're gonna do is get enough water in it just to get it to the point where it's gonna dump out over the top along with half of your soil and do absolutely no good whatsoever for your plant. So make sure you don't go completely to the top. This guy doesn't want to stay. We're gonna angle him towards the middle. And here's what we'll do. I am just taking my hand and shoving it on in. All right, so we're almost done here. And then as I mentioned in the post, these guys really, really like to dry out in between waterings. And when I say dry out, I mean, I'm not gonna water this for at least 3 weeks. I'm thinking a full month before I water. But I'm gonna start checking it after 2 weeks, because obviously it's already had issues with overwatering. I don't wanna all of a sudden shock it and just be like, oh, now you're completely dead, you have no water anywhere, go ahead and die. All right, we're almost done. I'm loving the way that this looks. We've got them in nice and snug. We've got a couple of them here that I put in and gave some bare nodes on it, so they're gonna root in multiple points, which I'm hoping by having multiple different points in there that I start getting some extra growth, maybe some new pups. I don't know if these do pups. Like I said, this is a brand new plant for me. I just had to go out and do all the research I possibly could so that I could help and do what needs to be done. All right, I think I've got it the way that I want it. Let me bring it up for a close-up here. Oh, I think this guy's gonna be good. Is that strong? Yep, that one's strong too. I'm kind of pushing it down nice and snug. The other ones in there should root probably within the next, I would say, 2 weeks. Week to 2 weeks, I should be able to start seeing some. So, bring this over. Now we have a much happier looking, a much smaller dish that's going to offer a really good area for it to grow. So I am going to go set this over on my porch, probably pause my video here, and I'll probably have another one up because I have umpteen million plants that we're going to play with. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully my videos are getting a little bit better, a little bit more informative. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for giving a girl a chance to be able to kind of start a little informational page and see if you guys find me entertaining at all. Hopefully you do. I really appreciate all of you joining me today. As always, I am definitely one plant short of crazy. Thank you guys. Bye.